Hello, my true crime lovelies. I hope you are well. I hope you are as lovely in your life as you are in my mind. Donna has been busy. She is, I don't know if they don't have any water at Wakulla County Jail. It's given thirsty. She's thirsty. She dropped 3 documents yesterday on the docket, and I'm going to give you 2 of them. I'll do the third separately. Let me tell you what they are. So she wants to depose someone. We'll get into that. And she's afraid of the Latin kings. There's a whole motion. But one in particular, and she needs to tell the jury his involvement and his leadership in the Latin Kings to explain her state of mind after the bump. Like, ma'am, nothing is going to explain why you called Charlie. And when he said, who does it involve? And you said, probably the 2 of us. What did that have to do with the Latin Kings, ma'am? All right, we're going to get into it. But first, I want to thank the members. And so I'll see you on the other side of the intro. All right, now I'm situated. All kinds of things. This is like command central on the side, and everything was woo, but we're here. We got it. All right, so the first thing is this. Actually, I'm going to show you. Let's do the deposition first because that one is short and sweet. She wants to depose her son, the eldest, Dr. Robert Adelson. It doesn't say that here, but I watched Kathy over at Gossip Rumor and Innuendo this morning, and she basically was like, we need to put some respect on his name. He's in his 50s. He's a doctor. He's not a criminal. And I was like, yes, girl. Yes. Speak it into existence. So Dr. Robert Adelson is being deposed on July 14th. Now, we know he's been deposed before because that's where we got into the slur that was said and how he definitely thought his mama was guilty, but or his family in general. But they want to depose him again. They're going to do it next Monday at 3:30. They're doing it via Zoom, which is code for, honey, we ain't paying for you to come down here. You stay in New York, we'll stay in Tallahassee, and we will get it done. So we'll see how that goes. That is the second depo. What was our other? Oh, now I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me. But last week, I think I did an update. They were deposing someone else. Whew, middle age. It's either the middle aged brain or the pregnancy brain, but we're gonna keep it moving. Okay, so this is what I want to get into it about the defendant's renewed motion in limine. Now, first of all, let me look at you guys because I need you to see me. I need to see you. Now, I am a true crime fan before I'm a content creator. So I've followed this trial for many years, not since 2014. I heard of it when it happened and I was like, egad. And then I did not follow the Katie McBanawa and Sigfredo Garcia, the joint trial. I did not see that. I've watched some of it since, and the same for Katie's retrial. I've watched it since. I was all in for Charlie's trial. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Well, if you're new, maybe you haven't heard of the bump where they sent in the FBI to scare Donna to kind of get them talking. They got a warrant to tap their phones, but then you got to tap it and then they got to talk about it. It was 2 years later when they got the warrant, so why would they be talking about it? So they sent in this FBI agent who I'll cover him. I will do the separate witness list that the state sent in, and I'll cover him there. I want to get some sound bites in, so I'm not going to do it today, or at least in this video. But anyway, so they sent him in, did a bump. Jimenez was his name. And he was like, hook me up. You hooked up my brother, blah, blah, blah. And then Donna went back and called Charlie to tell him, but she wanted to talk to him in person. She was the smarter of the two, of Charlie and Donna, but she let Charlie lead her down a path. And I don't know why she just didn't say, stop. meet in person. That was the purpose of her call. But Charlie kept hemming and hawing and like, who do they want? Who do they want to talk to? What's it about? And she was like, the two of us. And then what's that? It's a TV. And he was like, well, how much is this TV going to cost? And she's like, $5,000. Like, she was giving up this information that she was trying not to. I think that was their code. Clearly, they didn't play anything in school, like growing up, about creating actual codes, because it was like, we all know what you're talking about. So that happened, but I don't remember in that bump, which is where I was going on this tangent about being a true crime fan. I do not recall this man ever mentioning Luis Rivera's name. And to my knowledge, but I'm not like an old head, so that's why I'm saying this. You guys let me know. Donna did not know Luis Rivera was. She probably didn't even know Sigfredo was involved, like for real, other than it was Katie's ex or someone adjacent to Katie somehow, right? But she probably didn't know his name. Like, why would she need to know his name? She's not writing him a check. But I don't think even Charlie knew that Luis Rivera was involved. Charlie or Donna. Katie, it's kind of iffy. Like, she's gone back and forth. She didn't know the first time, but then the second time. But then there's that thing where she like messaged him about his Instagram owl to take it down. So I don't know what the clear answer is on that. But I feel like they didn't know that Luis Rivera was involved. Never mind his gang affiliation. So just keep that in mind. If I'm wrong, you guys let me know. You know, I don't mind being wrong. Like, I can't know everything. So I barely know anything, truth be told. So if I'm curious though, because as I was reading this, I was like, well, wait a minute. Did she know Luis Rivera was a Latin king, let alone like a leader? Because that impacts the purposefulness of this motion in limine. And we know motion in limine is to have you file a motion ahead of time for something that you do or do not want in the trial. So they are trying to get something in regarding the Latin kings because the state already got it out. So this is a request for, it's a renewed motion, like, hey, can we talk about this again, beloved Judge Everett? Defendant Donna Adelson, by and through the Understein, filed this motion in limine and request this honorable court, who we've tried to get kicked off the case 4 times, permit testimony concerning Luis Rivera's membership leadership with the Latin Kings, and in support thereof states as follows. So she's indicted. State filed a motion in limine to exclude any mention of Luis Rivera's gang affiliation with the Latin Kings, and that was granted, which is honestly good. You see what trouble Charlie is in, like, as far as his physical well-being, by mentioning the Latin kings, because they were like, man, keep our name out your mouth. So Luis Rivera has previously testified in the trials of Sigfredo Garcia, Catherine McVanoa, the retrial of blah, blah, blah. I want to get down to this part. So the defense agrees with the state that Mr. Rivera's gang affiliation did not tend to prove or disprove a material fact in the case, but it is not being offered by Mrs. Adelson for that purpose. But it would still be in the minds of the jurors. Like, you can't unforget that. I know they knew it in the other trial and they still found him credible, but I'm like, why do you need to mention that? So they're going to tell us why. Instead, this evidence is being offered to illustrate Miss Adelson's state of mind as it relates to the dangerousness of the individual who committed the murder of her former son-in-law. So by all testimony, he was not the trigger man. It was Sigfredo, but okay. Additionally, the significance of this evidence was emphasized with the state and FBI's investigation itself, as they intentionally exploited the believed role of the Latin kings when conducting the bump. I feel like that is a misstatement. They said Latin kings, but we have no evidence that Donna believed the Latin kings were involved in that, right? She and Charlie had text messages about like drug dealers and whatever else, but not specifically about Latin kings. Retired FBI Special Agent Oscar Jimenez testified that my role in that operation, I was portraying a Latin King gang member, and I was instructed to conduct the bump. April 19th, 2016, Charlie Adelson trial. So, legal analysis. In Florida, evidence of a defendant's state of mind is admissible to prove their mental state at a given time or to explain subsequent actions as long as it's not after the fact statement. It's not an after the fact statement about a memory or belief. But isn't this an after the fact? I don't ever remember hearing her say, I'm really afraid about the Latin Kings, Charlie. It's messing with me, or I'm scared, or I'm whatever. So this is the first I'm hearing of it. But again, you old heads, let me know. Mrs. Adelson's then existing mental state about the dangerousness of the Latin Kings would be admissible to explain her actions subsequent to the bump. Okay, fair. But I feel like, and they'll probably have a hearing. One, we have to lay the foundation that she, in fact, was afraid of the Latin Kings contemporaneously, because I've not seen any of that evidence. I'm hearing about it now. Fine. Then if we establish that foundation, because she's now saying the bump guy she believed him to be a Latin King member, she could in fact be afraid of the Latin Kings based on him having nothing to do with Luis Rivera's affiliation. You see what I'm saying? Like, she could still testify to being afraid of Latin Kings because the bump guy said he was in Latin. You don't have to drag in. I feel like this is a stretch. This is a reach. I need them to sign up for a yoga class, because all of this is not how you get your stretches in. Okay, additionally, in Martin v. State, First District Court of Appeal recognized that a defendant has a fundamental right to present witnesses and offer evidence. Oh, so you calling Luis as a witness? And offer evidence relevant to his defense. And then they cite all of these things. If there's any possibility of a tendency of evidence to create a reasonable doubt, the rules of evidence are usually construed to allow for its admissibility. But what reasonable doubt does it create? You already wrote checks to Katie at that point. So what was your fear then? Do you know? Because like the bump is a moment in time to get you guys yappity yapping about what you did previously. So there is no, what you're doing at that moment doesn't create reasonable doubt about why you murdered your son-in-law. As the evidence that Rivera was a member and leader of the Latin Kings in Miami is central to what Mrs. Adelson believed. How is that central when the guy came, the bump guy, Jimenez, how was that impacting your thoughts? Because you seem just unbothered while having the conversation, and then you called him and were like, it's not me. That's what you don't understand. Like, who reasons with the gang member that you're terrified of? That's not like, because basically you're saying you were coerced, right? Like he had some sort of coercive control. I mean, I guess you could beg with somebody who, I don't know. Okay, the court must permit the admission of this evidence during trial. I don't agree. You could be afraid of the Latin Kings without knowing Rivera's affiliation, because I don't believe you knew he was involved in the murder at that time. Wherefore, the defendant asks this honorable court grant this renewed motion in limine, allow testimony about Mr. Rivera's membership leadership in the Latin Kings, and for such further relief as just and proper. So what do you guys think? I feel like it's a reach. Did she know before? How does that impact it? I think it is more, well, I guess that it doesn't have that standard. It's more prejudicial than probative, but then I'm thinking of it from if I'm the state, and I don't think they get that benefit. So if I'm the defense, is it more probative? It just, no, because I think that rule is for everybody, for the case in general, right? I feel it's not. I feel like it's more prejudicial because then everybody gets caught up on the Latin Kings. And then what was Kathy says, Rashbaum called Aladdin Kings, like, Aladdin the genie. So is it relevant? She could be afraid of the Latin Kings without knowing Lewis's affiliation. And if she didn't even know Lewis was involved, it's moot. Like, how would she in 2016 know that? Or maybe because and I'm saying Louise was already arrested. No, he was arrested in the middle of 2016. I have to look at the date of the bumps. But even then, let's just make that leap and say, okay, she did know because they announced it when they arrested him. she knows he's also in jail. Like, does she think he's going to command the bump guy to hurt her? Because it doesn't sound like the bump guy was sent by Louise, right? He's like, oh, I know you're taking care of my brother, Tato, but you're not taking care of. Oh, wait, you're taking care of Katie, but you're not taking care of Tato. Okay. Which is Louise. But he's still incarcerated. I guess if the guy walks up to you and says that he could reach out to you, it still doesn't make sense about just the two of us and the TV being $5,000 when we know TV was a ruse in the murder, right? Because Wendy was getting her TV fixed, and she had to call Charlie and ask what he thought about it. Like, if your only option is to get a new TV, get a new TV, girl. Jeff Lacoste said it was like a dorm room TV. I got mine for my daughters when she went to school, like at Walmart. It was maybe a couple $100, maybe a couple. It might be $1.50. And what was that in? I think, oh God, that might have been in 2013. So reach, just get a yoga class or get a Pilates class, get a program going, y'all, because all this reaching is hurting me. All this stretching beyond the bounds of logic. What do you guys think? Is it plausible? Does it make sense? I feel like it's more prejudicial to bring Luis out and say, because he's super credible, and you kind of notch that down when you're like, he's a lifelong, because then you get into he started at 13 and he was the king, like a leader in there. You know what I mean? Those are my thoughts. Those are my 2 cents. Let me hear your 2 cents down in the comments below. I'll talk to you there. Toodles.